iPods. We all know what they are. Someone you know has probably owned one or has one. Maybe you have one. Released on November 10th, 2001, the iPod was the product that really launched Apple as a company. But how have they held up? What's the status of iPods in 2024? Well, 2001 was 23 years ago now. The iPod was sold by Apple in one form or another from 2001 until 2022, a span of 21 years. But in 2024, are iPods still common? Usable? Or are they just obsolete and completely unused today? So out of my entire ridiculously large Apple collection, these are all the iPods that I own. I own an iPod Touch 6th Gen with no screen and a bad battery, an iPod Touch 5th Gen that's MDM locked, a couple 4th Gens, one being on iOS 4, an iPod 4th Gen, also known as the iPod Photo, and two iPod 5th Gens, also known as the iPod Video, along with a second generation iPod Shuffle that I've had for 9 years and have never used. I still refuse to get rid of it though. Now, out of all of these iPods, I'll be honest with you, I only use one. This is my daily iPod. This is a 5th generation iPod, not the 5.5 gen, just a regular 5th gen that's completely stock other than the fact that it has had a black click wheel swapped into it. You can obviously tell where it's from. When I say I use this iPod, I've got it loaded up with almost 1,100 songs, and I basically just treat it like an iPod Shuffle, which sounds messed up to say, but it is the truth. Whenever I'm playing a simple game like BeamNG Drive or GTA 5, I like to put in the good old trash phones and put this iPod on shuffle. I mainly use this iPod for music while I'm at my desk, working on something or playing a game, but there have been times where I've used it on a road trip or at the gym. One thing for sure, walking into the gym holding a 19-year-old iPod is definitely a surefire way to make sure that nobody talks to you. Now, from the 4 months that I've owned and used this iPod, I have really enjoyed using it. But why use an iPod instead of a streaming service like Spotify or Apple Music on your phone? I can explain this with just one simple example. For example, if you're listening to music on your phone and you get a phone call, well, that phone call is going to interrupt your music. And if you don't want any interruptions and you don't want to talk to anyone, I can definitely see that pissing you off. With an iPod, on the other hand, if I have my volume cranked up loud enough, I can drown out the sound of my ringtone and not have to talk to anybody. Using an iPod as a music player is a way to listen to music 100% interruption free. And as a bonus, you don't drain all the battery off of your phone, and you don't have to pay a monthly cost just to be able to listen to music. But that comes down to paying for music to put onto your iPod. Now, out of these 1,079 songs, I paid absolutely nothing for these. Now, the method that I used to put the songs on this iPod, I cannot talk about in this video, but I will leave a link down in the description to, as of right now, just a Google document with a simple write-up of how I did this, but pretty soon in the future, it will be a web page on my website. Like I said, I can't talk about it in this video, but feel free to go to the first link in the description and read my little guide on how I managed to load up this iPod with music. When you're listening to music on an iPod, all you're focusing on is the music that's playing. Listening to music on your phone, you're most likely going to end up getting distracted when you get a notification from Instagram and go down a 4-hour doom scrolling rabbit hole. Now, I'm just speaking for myself, but there's a good chance this applies to you too. Now, of course, iPods come in all sorts of what I would call different flavors. You have the iPod Touch, the iPod Shuffle, the good old regular iPod, the iPod Nano series, Mini series, etc. Now, my personal favorite are good old iPod lineup and the iPod Classic, which is one I still need to get a new one of. I used to have an iPod Classic, which is essentially the same as this 5th generation with a metal front plate, an updated UI, more onboard RAM, and higher storage capacities. But I have no complaints about my 5th gen. I absolutely love this thing, and personally like the UI on it more than the one on the 6th generation / iPod Classic. But let's go back to the obsolete factor. Of course, if you have a stock iPod that doesn't have any serious modifications, you're gonna have a relatively slow mechanical hard drive, a nice loud clicker when you use the click wheel, and of course, in order to listen to music, you need to either plug in headphones through the headphone port or connect to a stereo system through the dock. Now, for the headphones I just use the good old Apple EarPods. You can really use any headphones with them. I'm just too lazy to invest in a pair of headphones to use. Now, of course, people may have mixed feelings about these, but they still get pretty loud. And that is full volume. And of course, my Pixel 6 picked up the song immediately. If it's loud enough for my Pixel to pick up the song immediately, then I think the headphones are loud enough for me. But what I was getting at is a stock iPod is going to be pretty bare bones and is going to absolutely scream mid-2000s. Wired earbuds, loud clicker, slow hard drive, etc. But thankfully, there is a huge community of people that work on and mod iPods. I could completely upgrade this iPod and put in 1 terabyte of flash storage. I could solder up a Bluetooth mod, a Taptic engine for the click wheel, and then have a modernized iPod. Although I do prefer just a good old stock one. I may look into modding my main iPod sometime soon, so let me know down in the comments below if you would like to see that. I think it would make for an interesting video, but I'm really only gonna do it if a lot of people are gonna be interested in it. But in 2024, if you have a way to load up an iPod with music, the iPod has a solid battery and a working hard drive, you have some headphones to use, I would not call iPods obsolete in any way at all. Yes, you may need physical MP3 files or purchase music through iTunes in order to get it on here. But going through the time to get physical MP3 copies of all your music, which took about 2 hours for me to get everything onto here from start to finish, I think definitely beats the hell out of paying $15 a month for a streaming service. 15 might be excessive. Now let's talk about iPod Touches for a moment. If you have an iPod Touch 5th generation or later, you actually can use Apple's Apple Music streaming service or Spotify, which may actually still work on iOS 6 on the iPod Touch 4th gen. I just can't remember, so don't take my word for it. But if you want a little basic music player and don't want to go through the process of getting all your music in physical copies, you can use Apple Music on an iPod Touch 5th, 6th, or 7th generation with no problem. Now, usability isn't just one factor and thing that I want to talk about in this video. Now, another thing that I do want to talk about in this video is the popularity of iPods in 2024. Now, if you go out in public, there's a very, very, very slim chance that you're actually going to see somebody using an iPod in public. And that's where we turn to the internet. Open up Reddit, do one simple search for the word iPod, go to communities, and you're just gonna see community after community relating to iPods. There's still a huge online community of people that are actively modding and using their iPods. So if you wanna get into obtaining, using, or modding an iPod, you're definitely not alone. There are tons of other people out there that are still using these, including myself, and you're still able to find iPods online on sites like eBay or Facebook Marketplace for a pretty good price if you know what you're looking for. If you don't want to buy a used iPod, you could definitely check out Elite Obsolete Electronics store. I'll leave a link down in the description to his store. And EOE, if you're watching this, I appreciate you watching my videos, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to me yap about iPods for the last 7 minutes. Now, this is kind of both a shout out and a recommendation for if you're looking into iPods, but Elite Obsolete Electronics sells refurbished iPods, iPod mods, and iPod parts at what I would call a pretty solid price, and is definitely a reputable source if you want to get into iPods. So again, link down in the description to his store. I would definitely recommend checking him out. He has a YouTube channel as well. I'll put that in the top right now. And I find it really awesome that he's just simply one individual that has such a big passion for iPods that he opened his own store to sell refurbished iPods, parts, and mods for them. So that's just something I find really cool. Now back to getting your hands on an iPod. You could check out Elite Obsolete Electronics store, get yourself parts, refurbished iPods, etc. Or you can look on eBay or Facebook Marketplace. If you are thinking about getting into iPods, what I would recommend is an iPod 5th or 5.5 generation. If you prefer the look of the 4th gen, you can definitely go for one of those as well. Speaking of that, this 4th gen iPod right here is a 40 gigabyte model. It has just had its battery replaced and is going to be up on my eBay soon. So check out my eBay at the link in the description. It'll be up within the next couple days at a pretty reasonable price. Along with this 5.5 gen, this one's just for parts as it's pretty fucked up. But if you're looking into getting a used iPod, again, I would recommend a 5th generation, a 5.5 generation, or even the 6th or 7th generation classic models. You can still find them for a pretty decent price in okay-ish condition on eBay. Now, I actually got this one for free from a friend of mine, along with this 4th gen. But on eBay, you can get your hands on a 5.5 gen in pretty decent condition that I will mind you is stock. Now, you don't want to go on eBay and directly buy a modded iPod. You're definitely going to be paying way too much for one of those. I would recommend getting your hands on a stock one and modding it yourself. I can't speak from experience as I haven't modded this one, but I plan on doing it in the future. You can still get your hands on a 5th gen or 5.5 generation stock in pretty good condition for between like $40 and $80. Depending on the storage and of course condition, or you can take a gamble and buy some parts iPods and just find out what works. Anyways, I've kind of run out of things to yap about when it comes to iPods. So overall, what I was trying to get at with this video is that in 2024, iPods may be quite old, especially these classic models, but in no way are they completely obsolete or unusable. Loading them up with music is a great way to repurpose an old iPod, and if you have one lying around, I would definitely look into putting music on it and seeing what you think about using it. I find it really convenient being able to grab the iPod, hit one button, and have my music playing without draining down the battery on my phone. And there's just something about this simple design without a touchscreen that I love, and I think you will too. So again, in no way at all whatsoever are iPods completely obsolete in 2024. They may be old, but they're 100% still usable, and there's still a huge community online of people who are into using, modding, and repairing them. Anyways, if you were thinking about getting into iPods, I hope this video inspired you to make your decision. And again, Elite Obsolete Electronics, if you're watching this, I hope you enjoyed listening to me yap about iPods, and thank you for watching. Anyways, I've yapped enough, but if you're new here, please consider subscribing, as of right now, only 10.7% of my viewers are actually subscribed. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button, as it'll really help me out in reaching my goal of 5,000 subscribers. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe, and as always, peace out, guys.